Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. It's good to see you all here back in the Lion's Den. Today, I'm going to speak about a way for leaders to see a return on their investment. But before we jump into that, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I focus on creating winning work cultures one leader at a time. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. So last week, I spoke about the development of potential leaders, and I shared 6 actions that good leaders will take to develop their potential leaders into the best leaders that they can be. A, if you weren't able to join us last Wednesday, don't worry about it. Or if you just want to watch that session all over again, all you have to do is head over to my website at lion-enterprise.com and click on the Lion's Pride Library, where you're going to find video number 102 for last week. Hey, while you're in there, check the Lion's Pride Library out. It's awesome. It's a free resource, and it's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Well, it is time that we continue this leadership series with today's session, the importance of building a dream team. One of the biggest lessons I learned early on in my Navy career was that we don't achieve anything of significance without the help of others. Over the years, I've seen this to be true many, many times, and that's why I'm really excited today to talk about the importance of teams. I think each and every one of us has been part of a team in some form or fashion in our lifetime. Whether you've played on sports teams in school or you've worked in teams in your career, I'm pretty sure you've had that experience. Being part of a team can be a really rewarding experience, and when you're on the right team, it can be a really powerful experience. When it comes to teams, there's 3 key things that make a team up. If all 3 aren't present, then you don't really have a team. You have a gathering of people. And those 3 things are a common goal, cooperation, and communication. Teamwork plays an important role in the success of any organization. But as important as teamwork is to their success, there's a lot of leaders who don't spend enough time teaching their people how to work in teams properly. You know, according to a Microsoft US Information Worker Survey back in 2018, workers were on twice as many teams as they were 5 years prior to that. That's a lot of teamwork going on. It seems to be more common to associate building a team and developing teamwork with sports than, of course, in the workplace. But leaders can and should build teams within their organizations. It's rewarding to develop leaders. But if you want to feel incredible, then develop a team of them. Teams of leaders increase their effectiveness exponentially. So if you're developing leaders, you can also develop them into teams. And this is where our investment in raising leaders starts to pay dividends. This is leadership's ROI for raising new leaders. I mentioned before that I led 10 teams when I managed that federal IT contract. I've worked with teams in a leadership capacity for many years. Even in the Navy, I worked with teams in different capacities. In all my years of leading teams, I've come to realize that the really good teams share some similar characteristics. As leaders, if we nurture these characteristics on our own teams, there's a strong chance that the team will be a cohesive and capable group. So let's talk about these characteristics so that you get an idea of the things that you can pay attention to and cultivate to make your teams the best they can be. Okay, so the first quality of a dream team is that the team members care for one another. No matter what team it is, if they're successful, then you can bet that it's a tight group of people who care about each other. This mutual caring for one another is what builds a strong foundation upon which everything else is built. The reason this is so important is that caring creates cohesion. When a team can bond, then they're primed to build. Leaders can foster this within their teams by encouraging social gatherings outside of the workplace. And I've talked about the importance of doing that for your team members before. That's a really good way to do this. Something happens to people when you get them out of the office. They seem to be able to form better relationships with one another because they connect better on things that aren't just work related. One of my favorite examples of this is when I was a young officer assigned to a health services detachment with the Marines. I was the leader of a small team of hospital corpsmen. We had spent about a year together doing workups, exercises and practice before heading out on a 6-month deployment to the Middle East. These guys were very close. They were like brothers. And still to this day, they all stay connected on social media. When they post pictures of our time in the desert of Saudi Arabia, I see comments like, "This was the best time of my life." We worked hard together and we played hard too. We had cookouts at the beach and, on occasion, we would even head out for a team dinner out in town. Those experiences brought them very close together, and it was very clear to me anyway, even to this day, that they genuinely care about each other. So get them out of the office. The second quality of a dream team is that they all know what's important. One of the coolest things to see is a cohesive team that can operate as a single unit with a common goal and purpose. It's awesome. This is what elite military groups are made of. This is another foundational characteristic to team building because without understanding what's important for the team and ensuring that each team member understands that, team members are going to find it hard to work together as a single unit. When it comes to sports that have teams like football, soccer, baseball, basketball, it's pretty easy for the team members to understand what it takes to score points. Scoring enough points leads to winning the game. That's what's important to that team. Each player on that team knows what they have to do individually in order to achieve that end result of scoring points. But outside of a sports setting, in the corporate world, it might not be so clear to team member what it means to score. What's that look like for them? Sure, each team member has a role to play and it's probably assigned certain tasks, but what are those tasks actually leading up to? What is the end game for that team? What's important and how will they know when they've scored? Being part of a team means that everyone has a role to play towards scoring for the team. This is why it's important for leaders to ensure that each and every team member understands what's important. If just one team member doesn't do their part, the team becomes ineffective. And an ineffective teammate can inhibit the team's ability to succeed. When me and that group of corpsmen arrived in the deserts of Saudi Arabia in 1999, Whew. My small team of about 15 corpsmen was responsible to set up a field medical station for the Marines that we were supporting out there. There were several tents that had to be put up, and it took all of us to do that. If you've ever seen the show MASH, which I'm sure most of you probably have, those big green tents that you saw on that show, well, those tents are called GP tents, general purpose tents, and it takes a lot to stand those up. There's, I don't know how many poles, 15 different poles to hold that thing up with a huge center pole. It's made of canvas. It's extremely heavy, and it's cumbersome to put this thing up. Each person on the team has a specific function to make sure that that tent gets raised. Raising the tent was the ultimate goal. That was how our team knew we had scored. But it was important that each person on the tent detail knew what they were doing and what was important to the team so they could contribute to the overall success of the detachment. I've seen it with my own two eyes, the importance for every team member to know what's important. Now, the third quality of a dream team is that they communicate well with each other. Remember when I first started talking about this whole dream team thing, I told you one of the three things that makes a team is communication. The other two things were having a common goal and cooperation. In order for a team to be successful, they have to have effective communication, or it's just not going to work. Not only do we as leaders have to communicate what's important to the team, but team members have to communicate with each other too. When team members don't communicate effectively with one another, they can end up working against each other, or even worse, duplicating effort. When I played in an adult softball league in Virginia back in 2006, my position was in the outfield. Traditionally, there's three teammates that cover the outfield: a right fielder, a center fielder, and a left fielder. Whenever a ball is hit far enough that outfielders can try and catch it, it was important that we communicated with each other. As soon as that ball would be popped up and coming at us, all three outfielders had the potential to run and catch the ball. So communicating with each other let us know who was going to go get it. It saved time and resources, and it probably also saved us from an embarrassing moment of colliding into each other. I'm sure you've all seen that before on TV in professional baseball, where the two players are running after a pop fly ball and they run into each other, collide, and then the ball drops between the two of them. You know, a simple "I've got it" or "mine" was the only signal my teammates needed to know that they didn't have to go leave their positions to get the ball. Without that communication, though, and there was a good chance all three of us would be running into each other and trying to catch it. The same is true in teams within the workplace. It's important for team members to communicate with each other effectively and positively. And that's why I've spoken to you before about the importance for leaders to create those atmospheres, those environments that encourages people to feel free to speak up and offer suggestions. All right, so we're moving on to the fourth quality of a dream team, and that is that they grow together. Now, this is going to be a leadership lesson if I didn't mention growth, right? You know that. But here's the thing. When it comes to teams, growth is important and necessary. Without it, neither the team nor its members are going to improve. And team growth should include shared experiences and periods of communication, so team members stay connected to each other. Team leaders must assume the responsibility to arrange the team's growth, both personally and professionally. The important thing here is that the growth should occur as a team. One of the methods that I used as a leader to encourage growth within my team was to attend consistent training together. Learning together helps team members grow together. Now, in the Navy and really in all of our branches of service, training is critical and expected. And that helped us share the common experience of learning together despite the differences in our ranks. That created a bond for us. So don't forget to take responsibility to pay attention to providing opportunities for your team to grow as a team so they can continue to improve. The fifth quality of a dream team is that each team member has a special role to play. Now, once a team establishes a good fit and they develop this attitude of partnership, and each team member is willing to put the team first before themselves, then they're going to want to start to recognize their different roles within that team. They can do that because they know what it takes to score, and they also are aware of their teammates' capabilities. When they're armed with that knowledge and leaders encourage them, they'll start to gladly assume appropriate roles or niches within the team. Now, you and I already know that ideally we want to have each person's role align with their greatest strengths. That's the best way we can maximize talent when we do that. But with that said, sometimes we also need team members to be flexible so we can place them in whatever position will give the team the best chances of success. But the important thing is that everyone takes a role that fits the goal and the needs of the organization, as well as their personal talents and abilities. When we have a team where not all the roles are filled, the entire team suffers for it. As leaders, we have to see what roles have to be filled by our team members so the team can accomplish its goal. When we see a vacancy, we have to make the necessary adjustments to the team to make sure the job gets done. Well, that was the exact case for me on that IT contract in Washington, D.C. One of my teams was a small team of 6 customer advocacy managers who acted as liaisons between the IT service provider and the IT service recipients. There were many departments throughout that federal agency receiving our services. We called that group the CAMs, Customer Advocacy Manager, and each CAM was assigned to support an equal number of departments. But during the following year's budget, we were forced to eliminate 2 of those positions. So I had to redistribute the departments to the remaining 4 CAMs. The team was definitely suffering for the lack of those 2 positions, but I did make the necessary adjustments to that team to ensure the job got done. Okay. The 6th and final quality of a dream team that I want to share with you is that everyone is willing to pay the price for success. Success comes from sacrifice, and when it comes to successful dream teams, each person on that team is willing to sacrifice their time and energy to practice and prepare. And they also have to be willing to be held accountable. We talked about that before. I talked to you about the importance of accountability and the importance of us to make sure we gave responsibility. But team members are willing to make sacrifices and pay the price in order for the team to achieve success. So without gaining the conviction of each team member that their common cause is worth the price they're going to have to pay, they'll never score. they're never going to win, and the team will never succeed in the way they truly want to. You know, I don't think I've ever shared this with many of you, but I deployed to Iraq with the Marines at the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. You'll probably remember that the buildup of forces in Kuwait was in response pretty much to what had occurred here in the United States on 9/11. You know, every soldier, Marine, sailor, and airman supporting that effort was aware of the importance of the task at hand. The buildup of all of our equipment and supplies took months. And when the war began in March of that year, not one person hesitated to do their part for a successful outcome, which at that time was to get to Baghdad and remove Saddam Hussein from power. What I learned from that experience is that when all is said and done, a team's success comes down to the dedication and desire of each and every one of the team members. You know, all of that equipment, all of those planes, the trucks, the tanks, all the weapons, the beans, bullets, and band-aids, none of that would have mattered without the men and women on the ground having the strength of character to do battle and believing that the cause was just. That's why I say that without a person's conviction that the cause is worth the price, the battle will never be won and the team will never succeed. We must have commitment. Okay, so those are 6 qualities that successful teams all share. As leaders, if we can cultivate these qualities in the group of leaders that we're developing, they'll become a cohesive team that's capable of things they never believed possible. So here they are again, real quick. First, they care for each other. That mutual caring for one another is what builds a strong foundation for that team, of which everything else is built upon. Second, they all know what's important. Being part of a team means that everyone has a role to play towards scoring for that team. That's why it's important for leaders to ensure that each and every team member understands what's important. Third, they communicate effectively with each other. Communication is one of the 3 things that makes a team and not just a group of people. Fourth, they grow together. Without growth, neither the team nor its members will improve. Fifth, each person has a special role to fill. Everyone takes a role that fits not only the goal and needs of the organization, but also their personal talents and abilities. And finally, 6th, everyone is willing to pay the price. Without gaining the conviction of each team member that their common cause is worth the price that they're going to have to pay, they'll never score. They're never going to win, and the team will never succeed in the way they truly want to. All right, everybody, there you have it. That's the 7th episode in my new series, How to Raise a Leader. So next week, I'm going to talk about where the leader's greatest joy comes from and why we need to develop the skill of coaching. If you want to hear more about where that joy comes from, then come on back to the Lion's Den and tune into the Weekly Roar next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting me and watching the Weekly Roar today. I appreciate you so much. I hope to see you again next week. But until we meet again next Wednesday, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.